So, if you're anything like me, you've picked an Ascendancy in Path of Exile 2 and jumped into the game. Now, if that was the Acolyte of Chayula, you're probably wondering what Ascendancy nodes would be best, and what the identity of this Ascendancy really is. I personally went with the Flames of Chayula node into the Breach, ultimately because I feel like giving up Spirit for Darkness is too high of a cost for not a giant benefit, and I think the Mana Leech nodes are fairly overrated. This is because, at least in my gameplay so far, I haven't seen really many sources of leech aside from like generic physical leech on gear, and I don't think there's that many good physical skill gems in the game right now for the monk anyways, so I just don't really see myself utilizing leech outside of the blue flames of Chayula, and given that you have to run around to pick those up and you don't get them passively, I don't think that's really consistent enough to make 2 points worth it. So getting back to the identity of the Chayula monk, I think where this class is going to shine more so is with ranged bow attacks or spells, at least in the current state of the game. I think defenses are fairly hard to come by right now, unless you heavily spec into Energy Shield with like a Ghost Writhe, or and in that case maybe the Mana Leech would be great. I'm not going to go that path, so I don't think it will be. But I think because of that, and the Flames of Chayula being the best node in my opinion, or the best path, what you're likely going to want to do with the Chayula monk is go with something ranged, not because, like, ranged is good for defenses in general, but beyond that, you're going to want to use it to have something you can run around and grab the flames with while attacking. So I think being able to move while you cast or shoot a bow or crossbow in Path of Exile 2 really leans into that. You can be DPSing and picking up these flames. You can slowly strafe around and then roll into them as they spawn. And that's going to be really big. Whereas with a melee skill, not only are you going to have to stop DPSing entirely to run to pick up the flames, you're also going to have to run around the map, and without quick movement skills, I don't think this is going to be very effective. So in general, I think range skills are going to be where it's at for the Chayula monk. Now, to expand on that, I've personally been doing bow, regular old bow, with crit. So I think the crit nodes are very accessible for the monk early game, and although you won't have like too consistent of crits, there are multiple nodes that will give you increased damage by like 20 or 30% for at least a few seconds after you crit. So even if it's not perfectly regular, the crit bonuses are big, and you'll get a generic damage modifier after you do it for a sustained period. And I think that alone is going to make it a very strong early game damage nodes. And I think everything else you just have to travel so much for, and the game is hard, basically right off the bat, so I think you need something that you can access right away. So I've had some generic gameplay in the background to kind of show you what I'm talking about with the bow skills and running around gathering the flames of Chayula. I think it works around, it's pretty seamless. I think it works really well together, and you don't have to step away from DPSing too much in order to grab them. Although I will say the flames definitely shine in boss fights, because the skill generates a flame nearby every like third of a second, so 3 per second, and they keep stacking. So when you're staying in the same area over time, they start to stack up and become more and more consistent. So in general, I mean, they're convenient when you're just running around, but they don't make a giant impact. But overall, they're really helpful for bossing. You won't run out of flasks. You'll be very sustained. You'll have a lot of like intermittent damage bonuses, which is needed in the campaign for sure. So I think overall, that's a pretty good strategy to go with. And the crit nodes seem pretty strong early as well. So I would recommend sticking with that if you're having trouble in the early game with the Monk of Chayula. Give that a shot, and I think you'll have a good go. So I'll wrap up there, and thanks for listening. And I'm going to be back soon with more information on the game as I keep playing, and providing more feedback on this Ascendancy. I think it has a lot of potential, so stay tuned.